Warning, we are not trained professionals. Do not take any advice that we give as official doctoral prescribed medical treatment. Lucy Deakins is our queen, lord, and savior. Side effects may include loving Lucy Deakins, not to be confused with I Love Lucy, going down many rabbit holes, not to be confused with Alice in Wonderland, which is an excellent Disney film if you haven't seen it, and appreciating cinema as used as a therapeutic device, not to be confused with drugs, antidepressants, or any other form of enhancements that you may find in legal states. Please enjoy responsibly, just like Bud Light, which is actually pretty gross if you've ever tried it. I'm not a beer fellow per se, but Maddie loves beer and she's an outstanding individual, so trust her judgment, but don't discredit mine. Bud Light's gross. Additional disclaimer. If the film says f***, we can say it too. So check the film rating, and that will be our podcast rating.
It is time for...
Time for what?
Film therapy.
Welcome to this ASMR episode where we're talking about a movie about a serial killer. It's all in good fun. Enjoy it.
Gonna be scary.
Welcome to our podcast. Are you ready to get scared?
It's gonna be scary.
Happy Halloween, motherfuckers.
Yes, that's my favorite time of year.
Just October through December is my absolute favorite time of the year.
Oh my
I
gosh,
adore it.
I know. It's the best.
If only that was the whole year.
Right. Then we just repeat that over and over and over.
We just need fall and a little bit of winter.
Yes. Well, welcome everybody to Film Therapy.
Welcome back.
My name's Madison.
And I also have a name.
What's your name?
You know my name.
I know your name.
Oh yeah, I guess if this is your first episode, my name is Jake. I am one of the two people on this podcast.
I am
Hello.
also one of the two people on this podcast. Maybe we'll have more people someday. That'd be interesting. We'd have to tell you
Who
their
knows?
names then too. But you won't know.
Like the Extreme.
The Extreme. We're going to have the Extreme on.
At some point, we have to, I feel like.
Absolutely. So this week, if you tuned in last week, you know that we watched Friday the 13th, parts 1, 2, and 3 this week, and hopefully you did too, so now we can talk about them. I wanted to ask you, Jake, if we should recap the movies. Did we do that last week?
No, but let's do that.
Yeah.
And before we do, I'm just gonna say, how I thought we could discuss it is we could go, like, movie by movie. But outright, because we'll probably jump around a lot,
Yeah.
so... If you haven't seen the first 3 Friday the 13th, we're just going to put the spoilers for all 3 of them now.
Yes.
So if you haven't seen parts 1, 2, and 3, then go watch them and then come back.
Please do. So I had not seen these movies before this week.
Me neither.
What did you think?
Well, actually, I'll tell you. So I knew, like, quite a few of the plot points throughout the series because I'd seen, like, reviews and some clips and that kind of thing.
Okay.
But I also had never seen any of them. There's a few things in particular, like some of the twists of the movies that I want to gauge your reaction to, find out your reaction to, because if you go in totally blind, then there's quite a few twists which I really really like. But as far as the movies go, first movie I liked quite a bit. I think it was a bit slow, but I kind of liked that. It felt leisurely. The second one, I'd say, was my least favorite of the 3, but I didn't like it as much as the first or the third, but it still had really great moments, and I think overall it was worth it. So still good, just not as good. And then the third one, I think, I definitely enjoyed it the most, so I'll say I liked it the best. But I did enjoy all 3 of them, and I definitely want to keep watching these, because especially the next one, because it has Crispin Glover in it, who's awesome. So,
Oh, okay, yeah. Definitely.
George McFly.
That's right, that one, yes. Well, starting the third one, I was like, all right, I think I've had enough of these Friday the 13th slasher films, but then at the end, I was so intrigued as to what's going to happen next, so I think maybe we should have a parts 2 and 3 and 4 to this, where we watch the next 3 sequentially, and then the next 3, and then the next 3.
Hell yeah. And then we could do, I guess we've seen I've seen all of them pretty much, but we both seen some of the Elm Streets, but then we could do those.
Oh,
And then by then it'll be October and we'll be fine.
And then we'll have to just do more Halloween movies. This is just going to be a horror film podcast.
It should be, yeah.
And also
but
Christmas.
just 80s horror. And also Christmas.
Oh my gosh, yeah, 80s horror.
Let's watch Black Christmas.
Yeah.
Do you know what that is?
No.
Like the original Black Christmas? Okay, so It's like the original Black Christmas is like a 70s horror movie. It's like one of the first slasher movies ever, and the guy who directed it also directed A Christmas Story.
Oh my
which
gosh.
I find hilarious.
Wow. That's crazy. That'll fit into our theme pretty well.
That'd be one hell of a double feature.
A Christmas Story and Black Christmas?
Yeah, Black Christmas.
Oh boy.
But we'll do Friday the 13th first,
Okay,
and then Elm
great.
Street if you want.
So yeah, my thoughts are, I don't know, I had never really seen many slasher films before, so it was kind of a fun experience, but it got old pretty fast for me.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, all right, cool. Like, the deaths aren't as creative as some I've seen, like in Nightmare on Elm Street.
Mm-hmm.
And then the acting in the first one especially, oh my goodness, is horrid. And none of the jokes land, and oh my gosh. The third one I finally did chuckle a bit at that stoner guy. He was funny. But the other ones, it was more of a face palm moment.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we can recap what happens real quick.
Yeah. So
So
the first movie, we'll start with part one.
It all begins at Camp Crystal Lake in
Camp Blood.
1958. Technically
Wow, that's a long time ago.
1957, but they tell you it's 1958 at the beginning of the movie. And you watch as you're the murderer. You're a POV of the murderer in this situation. So the murderer is walking around, sees two kids doing some hanky-panky up in the attic, and they're like, oh no, we're okay, we're not messing around, and then they get murdered! And then what?
One thing I want to say, I think your recap was just as entertaining as actually watching it in the movie. Like, that was incredible.
That's basically all that it was.
And one thing about the opening, real quick, is I like that it's very reminiscent of the opening of the original Halloween, because in that scene, you're in the killer's point of view in the opening of that movie.
Oh, okay.
So then it cuts to the present day, which is 1980, I guess, because that's when the movie was released. Maybe it's 1979. I don't know. Sometime in the golden age of life, 1979, 1980, whatever.
Yes.
So this girl named Annie, she gets into like a bar or something, and then she says, hey, can you tell me where to find Camp Crystal Lake? And everyone in the bar turns to her and is like, girl, why you going there? Girl, why you going there? And then this one brave gentleman is like, okay, I'll drive you there because, I'm a big tough guy. You'll be fine. And then, I think when they're going to their car, they meet Ralph, who is the greatest character in all of fiction. He comes up to them and is like, you're doomed. Don't go to Camp Crystal Lake. Bad shit happened there. But of course, Annie doesn't listen.
She's
and
like,
so she...
I love children. Nothing can stop me now. Okay.
Okay, that was pitch perfect accuracy.
I know,
first of all.
That she was annoying.
Yeah. Yeah, so then all these other counselors show up at the camp, they're like, okay, we're gonna, make sure the camp's up and running for like 2 weeks or something before we bring all the campers in. They all show up at the camp, and then this dude drops Annie off like halfway there for some reason. So then, then she gets a ride from somebody else, and then you're in their point of view again of the driver, and the driver kills her, like chases her into the woods and like stabs her or whatever. And then all the counselors are just at camp, goofing off, swimming, doing some stuff they probably shouldn't be. And then they all get slowly killed off one by one until one girl is left, and her name is Alice.
Yeah, that's it. Well, not really, because there's a twist.
Yes, let's talk about the twist. One thing, I really want to know if you knew the twist going in and what your reaction to it was.
No, I had no idea what the twist was. I didn't know there was a twist, so that was a pleasant surprise. I kind of had an inkling. So Alice is left, right? She's the only one, and then all of a sudden this Jeep drives up, and a woman gets out, and Alice is like, "Oh my gosh, I'm saved! I'm saved! There's a woman. She's so nice and old and friendly." Then you figure out that this woman has been the murderer the entire time, and she is a mother of this young boy named Jason who drowned at Camp Crystal Lake in 1957. So I don't get it though. She was like channeling Jason, but Jason was alive. She's been attacking everyone this whole time, and then she starts speaking as if she was Jason. She starts saying like, "Kill them, mommy! Kill them, mommy!"
Yes,
and then
Jason.
she responds to him, and she tells Alice the whole story of how Jason drowned in the lake, and because two counselors were having hanky-panky time, and they were supposed to be watching Jason, but they didn't, and he drowned. So now his mother / Jason is taking revenge out on all these counselors once the camp reopened.
Yeah.
And then eventually Alice... Oh man, yeah, the way Alice kills the mom is pretty sick.
I was gonna say, that's pretty
That was
fucking
pretty good.
awesome.
I like that. She beheads her straight up on the beach. In slow motion. Like horrible slow motion.
Obviously done in post.
Yeah,
unless it's not,
definitely done in post.
Like, I think we're gonna go to IMDb and be like, it was shot for real, it wasn't done in post. We're gonna sound like really dumb.
Well, you know. That's the 80s, I guess.
Yeah.
At least she knows that she
That's
was
the
dead
first one.
once she beheads her, right? Because so many times they like can beat her up, but then she just gets back up. Like that happened a couple times. She like knocked her down and didn't like stab her. And I was yelling at my TV like, "Alice, you dumbass!"
Yeah, me too.
Double tap.
That's what I said. I was like, Alice, you dumbass.
Yeah, so finally she slices her head off. That gets the job done. And then, oh my gosh, yeah, the most beautiful scene.
Go. I know where you're going.
Keep going. The whole film is Alice, after she escapes the mother, she finds a canoe, and she gets on it, and she rows to the middle of the lake, and then the sun comes up, and there's beautiful
The police show up.
Playing. The police show up, and she's just like laying over the side of the canoe, draping her hand across the water ever so gently, and it's a beautiful reflection of her on the lake in the canoe, because if this wasn't a horror movie, it would be just a delightful photo. Yes, the police are there, they're yelling at her, she's like, "Oh my gosh, I'm saved."
From out of the darkness of the underbelly of the lake pops out the scarred and fucked up body of Jason, comes around, grabs around her neck, and pulls her under, and then she wakes up and it was a fucking dream. He's still out there. The boy, Jason.
The boy.
Yeah. So
I don't know. Was it a dream? We don't know.
That was a great recap. Well done.
Well done.
I'm applauding for both of us. So firstly, I love Ralph. And then in parentheses, I'll forget who he is. He's the old warning guy. Because I'm like, he's just going to show up in this one scene, but I love him. And then guess what? He's in the movie again. And he's in part 2. And he gets a death scene. So I was wrong, but I still love Ralph. Mad respect to him.
He's the warning guy.
He's great.
The omen.
Yeah, the warning guy. You're doomed. The one counselor that was like, I think he was like flirting with Alice or insinuating something. The guy with like the mustache and glasses. He was really creepy.
He was. That was a weird dynamic too between Alice and that guy, and then Alice and the other guy later on.
Yeah.
I don't really know what was happening there. All the backstories for the characters just don't really hit.
Why were they playing Strip Monopoly? Like, that's great. More movie characters should do that.
Was that in the second one, though?
No, that's in the first one. Because it's
really?
Alice, and then it's Alice,
and
then the guy, and then what's the other girl?
Brenda?
Yeah, Brenda.
No. Brenda?
Yeah, it's Brenda, right?
I think it's Brenda.
The fact that we don't remember shows how little you care about the characters. Oh yeah, Kevin Bacon gets an arrow through the neck.
Yep, he does.
When Kevin Bacon and his girlfriend, I forget her name, when him and his girlfriend are in the bed, doing some hanky-panky stuff, there's a dead body above them. Like, how freaking morbid is that? There's a freaking dead body in the bunk above you. Then they die. I remember liking that guy too. The one that was like dead up above them. I kind of liked him.
Wait, Ned?
Why. Yeah, Ned.
Ned was a piece of shit.
Or wait. Was Ned the one that like shoots the arrow at the girl?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome.
No.
Yeah, it was totally awesome. It's like
no.
It's like what the fuck? He could have killed her.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What a nuisance.
I didn't really connect with Alice too much, but by the end, I'm like, yeah, you go. Just partly because she was the last one, but also because I'm like, you're kind of cool. I'm kind of vibing with you a little bit. And then Mrs. Voorhees shows up, and she's like Betsy Palmer's the actress, and she's like the best part of the movie. But there's that one moment when she's like, I'm Mrs. Voorhees. I'm a friend of the counselors. But like 5 minutes later, she's like trying to kill Alice and is like, look what you did to my boy.
She's crazy.
Yeah, she was awesome though. So what did you think of Alice and Mrs. Voorhees? Separately and then together.
Alice had a terrible haircut.
Oh God, yeah.
Her haircut was so bad.
It was awful.
Yeah, I mean, I was excited that Mrs. Voorhees showed up. I was like, okay, yay. But then I was like, immediately didn't trust her when she was like, I'm not afraid. The cat and mouse scene in that where they were chasing each other was just so unbearable. It was like, Alice, why don't you close the windows? Alice, why are you barricading the door from the inside for a door that swings outward?
I mean... Yeah.
Then, yeah, I'm just not sure about Mrs. Voorhees, and, like, does she know her son is alive?
I don't think she was channeling Jason. I think she was just, like, speaking in his voice, like, because she was crazy, but maybe she was channeling him. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's very confusing. I guess it was kind of maybe like a psycho situation, like a Norman Bates type thing.
But the reverse.
Right, exactly.
Spoilers for Psycho. I think actually my sister and I watched it together one day. I think my dad might have watched it with us, which is like a rarity. So that was a fun day.
Psycho, a great family movie.
Well, it's about a family.
So
are these. The first movie is really a great Mother's Day movie because it shows the love a mother has for her son.
Yeah, really it does.
Yeah.
It's
and I'd argue the second one too. So watch the first 2 on Mother's Day and then watch 3 the day after Mother's Day.
Yeah.
Which might be Saturday the 14th. I don't know.
Sometimes Mother's Day is on the 13th, but not a Friday.
So does that mean in God knows however many years it'll be the 1st, and then it'll cycle back through, then it'll be the 13th? Like,
no.
Like how many years? Okay.
It's always on a Sunday.
Like I was thinking we'll come back and we'll be like 20, 30 years from now and be like, well, Mother's Day is finally on the 13th.
Time to watch Friday the 13th. What a great Mother's Day tale it is.
Anyway, well, I never really understood because I thought like Jason's dead, and then like at the end when he pops up with Alice, like that's like when he's real. But since that's a dream, or maybe it's not a dream, like I think because in part 2 when he's alive, I think it's just like either he didn't really die and he's been hiding in the woods, or he did come out of the lake and then now he is in the woods or some shit. I don't know. It's not really clear,
Yeah.
But there's like fan theories and stuff.
Oh, are there?
Yeah. Because there are with everything.
That's true. The way I took it was that he didn't ever drown in the lake, actually, and he's been living in the woods ever since.
Yep.
And then he attacked her from underneath the water because that's how he could get to her, and somehow he can swim underwater for a very long time.
Yeah, that's
I don't know.
in the PS4 game. Like that's I don't know if that's a thing in the later movies, but in the PlayStation 4, because they have a Friday the 13th game where you can either be the counselors or you can be Jason, which is cool. But but you get to either fight Jason or kill people as Jason. But anyway,
Oh my gosh.
like if you swim in the water, it's like a bad idea because Jason can swim like really, really fast. So I think that has something to do with the movies, but
Okay.
I don't know. But yeah, so did that last scene like make you jump or anything?
Yeah, I did. Well, so I was like, oh, yay, good, she's saved. And then I was like, oh, crap. And then she wakes up in the hospital, and I was like, oh, crap. Then I was like, all right, what's going to happen in part 2? Let's go. Yeah, just the dialogue was so silly. They were all just, like, making jokes and being like, oh, Ned, what a whippersnapper you are. Like, oh my gosh, the cop dialogue, too, where, when does the cop show up?
I want to say like a third of the way into the movie, and then he dies like 2/3 of the way in.
Oh, yeah, because he's talking to...
The creepy mustache dude. Yeah, Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah, Steve.
Steve, he's like, hello, I am a cop. I talk like a cop. 10-4, roger that.
Well, you know the reason why he is that way. Movie cops had to evolve. They all can't be the quintessential cop yet. This is still only 1980. We have to wait till 1992 for the greatest movie cop of all time.
Who's that?
Hey, Clovis, get the bad guy, get the bad guy.
The cop from Sleepwalkers.
Best movie
is the
cop
best.
ever.
You're right, he is.
Anyway.
This movie is not vegan friendly because they brutally murder a snake.
That was a real snake that they killed.
Yeah. Absolutely real. It was crazy. Kevin Bacon killed it, and, right? Was it him?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because he comes in with the shovel and like...
In the scene where they're looking for it, they all come in and then they start destroying the room. Like, Kevin Bacon jumps on the bed and just breaks the entire frame. And they're, like, unstuffing the pillows and there's feathers flying everywhere. They're like, where's the snake? Even though she saw it go under the dresser.
And it hasn't moved since.
It's like 2 seconds before.
You don't get stuff like this today. Now everything's all digital and polished and, you know, the snake would be CG, but nah, man, nah. They killed a real snake.
Yeah.
Just to be clear, animal abuse is completely wrong and is a horrible thing and should never ever happen, but in 1980, you make a CG snake. So, you know.
Maybe the snake had cancer and was gonna die.
Aww.
And so they just put it out of its misery, really. That's the way I'm gonna think of it.
Yeah, I really don't like how my sentence turned out. I was trying to make a good statement, and then halfway through it got mixed up, and I'm like, that probably didn't come out right. Anyway, what else you got?
The less talking, the better. So as soon as people start getting murdered, it gets a little bit better. Except the part with Alice, though, when she's just, like, running around being like, help me!
We watch Alice make coffee, and we watch the entire process, and that's like 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, so why do we like horror films? Why do we like watching people get brutally murdered?
I think it's therapeutic in a way. I think, yeah, and because, you know, it's like part of it is just because, you know, like let's say you've had a really bad day, or like, you know, you're like something with your mortgage or your job, or hell, let's say you're a kid and violence is cool, or any of the above. And you're just like, I just want to go see a movie in the summer with a group of my friends where we can, like, put ourselves in the shoes of characters, and we can just, like, go have fun for an hour and a half and just, like, let our brains just kind of, you know, rest and just go along for the ride. I think that's a big part of it. I think also there's that piece of it that's like, what if this happened to us? It's like it's not fun. Well, especially when you're younger and you're watching slasher movies, it's like, oh, it's like, imagine if we were in that situation and we had to fight, you know, Mrs. Voorhees or Jason or Freddy or something. Like, how would we do it? And, you know, it's just kind of that, I guess, mentality.
That's true. That's a good way to put it. I don't know. I think I like getting scared.
Oh, that too.
And I know a lot of people do too. But also these movies are, like, comical too, and horror and comedy share a lot of similar beats when you break them down. And I think that's why they're entertaining. I think it's definitely a lot of, like, perspective, like putting yourself in the character's shoes and watching them, and you're like, what would I be doing? Because the whole time you're yelling at them, saying, like, why are you so stupid? Why didn't you do that? Don't go down there. Don't go in there. Lock the doors. So that's what we find ourselves thinking about the whole time. And then, I don't know, gore. Some people don't like gore. I don't mind it.
Mm-hmm.
I think definitely the older horror films are very creative with their special effects and how they do crazy things. And that's a draw to them because it's like, oh my gosh, how did they do that? How did they make that eyeball pop out of that guy's head? And I think that's really entertaining too.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. You actually brought up the gore, and I wanted to bring that up, so thanks for reminding me unintentionally. So Tom Savini is the guy who did most of the gore for, at least for the first few. I'm not sure if he did it for all the movies, but at least for the first few. And the MPAA, they made them make cuts to avoid getting an X rating.
Oh.
So, like, the better job that Tom Savini did, you know, the more they had to cut out. So, there's little moments where it's like, oh, I feel like that was cut a bit short.
Yeah.
And that's why. Because it was so good at the time that they're like, well, we have to cut it. And all the movies suffered from this, like every single one of them. I think the first one, the first one has an uncut version on DVD. I think it's just like a few more seconds of gore.
That's crazy. That's funny to know because, yeah, a lot of the times I was like, oh man, that was so quick. Like, I wish I could have seen more of that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, a lot of it was just like, you see the tip of a blade coming through someone, and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
And then some of the deaths you don't even see.
Yeah.
I really didn't like the POV killing aspect of it. I kind of like when you can see the killer, like in the second and the third one.
Mm-hmm.
But I do understand that, obviously, that they had to do that because the twist was that it was Jason's mom the whole time,
Mm-hmm.
Mrs. Voorhees. So I understand that, but I don't know. I wasn't a fan of the cinematography as a whole in the first one.
Yeah, I totally understand what you're saying, but I'm not saying I disagree, but I'm saying I have like a few rebuttals that are like, oh, it's because of X, Y, or Z.
Right, yeah, for sure.
Like obviously they had a really low budget, so they just went to the woods and filmed. The first one at least was a real campground in New Jersey, so that's cool.
Oh, wow, cool.
Yeah, so there's that. Yeah, because like when you see the movie, like imagine like people who have seen the movie and like it's the first one and they like no one knows who Jason was. So like the fact that it was Mrs. Voorhees is like you know what I mean? Like no one's like
Right.
oh going into it expecting oh Jason's the killer because like in 1980 it was the very first one.
Right.
And I saw a review online that mentioned like imagine if Mrs. Voorhees had been in the movie the whole time interacting with the counselors. I think like at the end it's revealed that she's the killer. Like
Yeah.
do you think that would have benefited or detracted from the movie?
I think we probably would have been able to figure it out easier
Yeah.
if she like was always somewhere else while people were being murdered, or I think there would have been hard to get around her not helping out people or something, or not being
Mm-hmm.
murdered herself.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of like that she just shows up at the end. Because she's an outcast. She wouldn't fit in with the other counselors and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So she would kind of stand out, I feel like.
Yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense. I would agree with that. I guess from my perspective, like the reason why that was like thought provoking was because like again the first time you see her and she's really nice. If she was like nice the whole time and they did a workaround or like she faked her death like halfway through or something.
Oh,
and then,
yeah,
something
there you
like
go.
that. And then because that happens in the later movies too, which I always don't like. Like if you're making a character look like they're dead, like keep them dead. But like don't bring them back for plot convenience. But we'll get to that later in part
Right.
3 and I think also part 2. But anyway, like Mrs. Voorhees is kind of like that Steve guy where she's like a bit older, but she's like interacting with everybody. And then maybe like
Yeah.
she leaves and we see her like at the diner or wherever, like at the bar. So like we know she's not at Camp Crystal Lake, like at least in our heads.
Mm-hmm.
That could be an earlier scene. And then like at one point she's like I'm on my way back, and then she's coming back, and then like they find her car or they find her like dead, like Alice does. I think later on when she sees her, like it's the horror movie trope of like oh the killer almost got me but they didn't, and then it's like oh yeah she is the killer. Maybe I should just write a horror movie where those things happen.
There you go. Yes.
Yeah, and it'll be Mrs. Voorhees at the end. It'll be Friday the 13th, part 13.
Oh, yes, we need a part 13. How
Make
can
it.
they not have a part 13?
The last one was like 2009. Like get your
Ugh.
butts in gear.
Come on.
I think maybe it's a rights issue. I don't know.
Maybe. Do you think the murders ever happen on a Friday the 13th again in the series?
In the second one, I'd say it's possible because it's 5 years. But then the third one takes place the day after, so that's technically Saturday the 14th or Sunday the 15th, depending on
true.
because it goes
True.
into the part 2 goes into the morning. So
That's right.
But I guess that's not as catchy as of a title. That's Friday the 13th, part 3, 3D. So
Yeah, so I guess we can move on to part 2.
sure, Friday the 13th, part 2.
Oh man, it begins with recapping the ending of part 1 for like 10 minutes.
Yep.
It just replays the ending, and the same for part 3.
Yep, Alice's Nightmare. That was weird.
It just goes on and on. I'm like, all right, I just watched this. Let's go. But I understand it came out a year later, so people needed to remember what happened.
And no VHS, so you couldn't see it if you missed it in the theater, so.
Oh, you're right, man. So that's how it begins, and then the cast is a lot hotter this time around. I think. So that helped.
That always helps in a horror movie. Always helps.
It goes a long way. Their dialogue was a little more natural this time, not so cringy as the first one.
Mm-hmm.
But what even happened? So there was a group of they're at a camp that's across the lake from Camp Crystal Lake, right?
Yep. It's the rival camp.
All right. So this happens.
Wait, no, I'm sorry. That's Camp Rock 2, not Friday the 13th 2. Sorry, I messed that up.
Camp Rock?
Yeah, remember that? Camp Rock 2 is like, there's the camp across the lake and they're the rival camp.
Of course,
Why the
yes.
fuck did I reference Camp Rock 2? It's awful, don't watch it. Even as a kid I didn't like it, but like the first one's like stupid, but at least it's fun. The second one is just dumb. Anyway, moving on. I'm not delving into this, but Friday the 13th Part 2.
So,
yes,
a group of counselors across the lake from Camp Crystal Lake.
Mm-hmm.
And they're back for summer camp. And...
Yay,
summer. They've got a little dog named Muffin, which is my dog's name, kind of. Well, my dog's name is Muffy, but sometimes I call her Muffin.
Aw. There's somebody else going after them, some dude. And then later on you find out, because it's when the glass girl's there, she finds out that it's Jason, Mrs. Voorhees' son. Which I mean, we know that it's Jason because, you know, the whole series. But, like, it's the same thing where the first movie, if this is the first, like, second movie, like, the first time you see it, you don't know who Jason is. Like, that almost is kind of like a reveal. But anyway.
That's right, yeah. So, again, it ends with one last blonde girl standing.
Yeah.
She comes across a shrine dedicated to Jason's mother. She finds, like, Jason's mother's sweater and her head.
Yeah.
On a table.
It's awesome.
And she's like, oh, this is cool. But in the beginning, they do know of the tale of Jason and Mrs. Voorhees and what happened the last 5 years ago, right? 5 years ago?
Yes, which they don't reveal it's been 5 years till like 25 minutes into the fucking movie. But then again, the prologue is like 15 minutes long, so.
Right.
10, 15 minutes, so.
So they do know the story of what happened, so they're all kind of like weary and trying to scare each other and everything.
Yeah.
Again, they're all coupling up and going off to do hanky-panky and drugs and drinking and all that stuff you do at summer camp.
Wait, what summer camp did I go to that we never did any of those things?
Actually, I went to church summer camp, so...
I never went to summer camp, so... Besides the Jason part, it sounds like a good time. Definitely completely legal, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. So this time it's not a POV of the killer. You see Jason running after people, and he's got, like, this cloth over his face, so you can't see what he looks like. You can only see his one eye hole.
Yeah.
He's wearing, like, overalls, coming at people with knives and pitchforks and arrows, and one by one, all the people get killed off. And it happens a lot. I feel like it happens quicker. No, slower. Well, the third one is the slowest, I think, is, like, for the main characters to die.
Yeah.
Second one, I don't remember how fast it goes.
I'd argue it's about the same, but, like, it's like they have a lot of characters, and then some of them leave, and we never see them again, and then, like, the remaining ones start to get killed.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, because at their meeting at the beginning, they have, like, 15 counselors.
Yeah, that's way too many.
That's way too many. So then it trickles down to, like, we watch, like, 6 or 7.
Mm-hmm.
Then, what's the girl's name who survives?
Ginny.
I
wrote it down.
She shows up. She's late to the counselor meeting. Shame on her.
Her car won't start.
Well, because, you know, there's a part where Muffin disappears, and that girl is calling out, Muffin, Muffin, and you never see Muffin again, and you're like, oh, man, Muffin's dead. But then, at the end, after you think that Ginny and the other guy have killed Jason, Muffin comes back and scares them. Then Jason comes back alive and kills the guy, right?
Crashes through the windows, grabs Ginny, and then we fade to white, and then and then the next morning she's on a stretcher, and then she's like, where's Paul? Where's Jason? Where's Muffin? And we don't know what the fuck happened. She goes off in the stretcher, bam, movie ends. It's like,
yep.
It's actually kind of a really cool ending, even though it's like, what just happened?
Yeah, it's a lot of questions right at the end. So it's, we're like, oh, how did Paul die? Oh no, Ginny, she's dead. Oh wait, no, she's fine. Where did Ginny go? Oh no, she's probably crazy now.
How did she get saved by Paul? Because, you know, Jason had a pretty good grip on her.
Yeah, how did she get away? That's the big question.
So the very first shot of this movie is there's the little kid jumping in the puddle singing the Itsy Bitsy Spider, which reminds me of the opening of It, when the original It, when the little girl's on the bike and singing that. Well, Part 1 of the original It is great. Part 2 is shit, of the original 90s one. I connected those two openings, and then I'm like, oh, is this like kids singing gonna die? And then Jason just like steps in the puddle and then just like walks away, and I'm like, Jason, I'm glad you didn't kill the kid, but why didn't you kill the kid?
But like, why? Why are we watching this?
Yeah, I thought that Alice having a nightmare to recap the movie is really cool, but like it's a really unique concept. But the execution is just really weird because they're just showing clips from the first movie, and then she's like, no, 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 like, and they cut back to her like 10 fucking times, and I'm like,
it just like cross dissolves from her thrashing in her bed to the scene we just watched at the end of the first part. No, no,
no. I really love that like long shot of her like going through the house and like the camera follows her back and forth and she goes like in every room. That was really cool. That was actually really cool. Like nice cinematography right there.
Yes.
And then when I saw, because I this was one of the things I knew from before seeing the movie, but like, you know, she opens the fridge door to get food for her cat. There's a running theme of animals in this movie. Female characters loving their animals, which I don't blame them because, you know, animals are the best. Pets are the best.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm trying to say. But anyway, Alice goes in to get food for her cat. She opens the fridge door, and Mrs. Voorhees' fucked up, severed head, like grotesque head, is in the not Betsy Palmer's head, not the actress's head, like some mocked up, decomposed, decaying head. And then she turns around, and then it's Jason, but we don't know it. Like she gets like an ice pick in her head. And then it's like, well, okay, that's that. Our lead character's dead. What's the point?
Yep.
And I wondered at first, was that like the actress? Was that like the studio? Like what was that? Even though I knew that was happening, like after the end of the first movie, I'm like, you know, I'm not completely crazy about Alice, but you know, she's kind of cool, so I kind of want to like see her come back and, you know, fight Jason and that kind of thing. But apparently the actress in real life, like when the first movie ended, she had somebody stalk her in real life, like an obsessive fan or something. So then she didn't want to come back and do the second one. Like I think they had a larger role for her, I read, but then like, you know, she didn't want to come back and shoot a movie where some guy's trying to kill her the whole time because it's just, you know, too much.
That's scary. Makes sense. Yeah, maybe that played a part into her death.
Yeah, were you surprised like how it ended, like how she's dead before the title?
No, I mean, well, yeah, I was kind of looking forward to watching her, like if she was gonna be throughout the whole series or just a few movies or whatever. So I was like, ah, well, all right, here we go. So it was okay. I wasn't that sad. I wasn't that happy.
Yeah, makes sense.
And then we switch on to the counselors getting to their camp. The murders commence.
I took way more notes for part 2 than I did for part 1 because I just had more I wanted to talk about. Firstly, we get to see Ralph again, which is great. And then he fucking dies, and I'm like, ah.
Yeah, so he warns everyone, don't go, you're all doomed. And then he shows up at the camp because he wants to see for himself or warn them again or something, and gets sliced by some barbed wire.
Mm-hmm. And I checked the counter, like, I think I brought this up. I did bring this up before. But it's not till 25 minutes into the movie when they say it was 5 years ago that girl, like, killed Mrs. Voorhees. And it's like, damn, like, why didn't you say it, like, after the title? Like, do a title card or something. Like, it's just like...
Right.
It's like, you have no clue. Like, I had no clue. I'm like, are they actually going to say it's 5 years?
Yeah.
Seeing the mangled dog disturbed me. I'm like, no! Don't show that!
Yeah, I don't like that.
I thought that was Muffin at first, and maybe it is, because maybe it was a dream. Who knows?
It's all a dream.
All of these movies end with dreams that may or may not be dreams. It's like, no wonder they put him against Freddy. Like,
yeah. I
kind of liked the wheelchair guy. He was kind of cool.
Me too. And then I loved him.
His death was cool, too. Like, he got an axe to the head. Like, I didn't want him to die, but, like, how he died, I know. Yeah. I liked him a lot.
Me too. He's my fave.
Mm-hmm. And then I actually didn't know, who the last survivor was going to be. So there's that scene when they're at the bar, and Ginny's talking to Paul and then somebody else about, like, because, you know, she's like, I'm going to be a child psychologist. And she's talking about, like, how, Jason and his mom, like how lonely he must, and isolated he must have felt. And then in that moment, I'm like, are you going to be, like, the last survivor? Or, like are you just, like, you're dissecting Jason? And I thought about it, and I'm like, that was actually pretty thought-provoking. So I thought that scene was cool. And that's the scene where I'm like, Ginny, you're cool. I like you.
Yeah. Yeah, she brings out her character more, and you're like, okay, I get behind you. You can be the last one to survive. I'd be alright with that.
Everyone else can die, like, whatever. Except for wheelchair guy, he should have lived.
Yeah, Mark was cool.
Yeah, was that his name? Was it Mark?
I think it was Mark.
I remember the one dude called him Scooter, and I'm like, that's mean.
The 80s.
The 80s. Okay, so I still have more, but I've gone through a few. So do you have some you want to share?
I really have nothing. Keep going.
Okay, I'll keep going. There was that one asshole pervert guy that like shot the girl in the butt and like didn't even apologize for it. And then later on, she's swimming and he takes her clothes. And then he gets like, when he dies, I'm like, oh, thank God. He was awful.
Yeah, he was a tool.
And then also during the scene, one of the lines, and it's the best line in the whole series. This one dude said like, I think you're drunk. I'll drink to that.
Oh yeah, I remember that now. That's so dumb.
Yeah. And then when Jason like he kills two people in one blow. They're in their room doing some hanky-panky stuff. He takes like, I don't know what it is, like an axe or like an arrow or something, and just like stabs them both at once. And I'm like, wow.
Oh, yeah. That was crazy.
I didn't know why his head sack had only one eye, but that was a cool design.
Yeah, when the reveal of him without his mask on is that his eyes are at two different levels on his head.
Oh, yeah. My favorite part of the movie, easily, is the last, like, 15, 20 minutes or whatever of Ginny versus Jason. I think that was really great. I love when she, like, attacks him with a chainsaw and then a chair. Like, that was sick. That was awesome.
Yeah, she definitely was smarter about her approach to what she was going to do with him.
Sorry, Alice. You didn't survive this one.
She put on Mrs. Voorhees' sweater
and
pretended to be her, starts talking to Jason like she's his mom. She's like, Mommy says, you're done here. Your job is done. Listen to Mommy.
You did good.
And it kind of works for a while.
If she only hadn't moved, like, in that 1 second, then she would have been fine. Because she, like, moves and he, like, sees her head.
Right. Yeah, that's right. He sees the real head behind her. He's like, oh, no, she's dead. You're not my mother. And
then Paul shows up out of fucking nowhere, and I thought he was dead, but I guess not.
Yeah.
And then I liked the callback to how when Ginny goes in for the killing blow to Jason, they tie it into the first movie with Alice. Like, they use the same kind of slow motion, and like she's holding the weapon and like running in the same way. I'm like, that was a cool nod. That was really cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, the ending, I have no fucking clue what happened, but it was cool.
I know.
The last 5 minutes.
A big question. How did she get away? Don't know. Don't care. I guess she's fine.
Is Paul alive?
Is Paul alive?
Was it all a dream? Was it not? How did she escape Jason? Who knows?
Yeah, so I was waiting for her to come back in the third movie, kind of like Alice did in the second movie, but she doesn't show up.
Nope.
Except for in the recap at the first 15 minutes. We watched the ending of the second one again in the third one.
Well, it's the best part of the second one, so you might as well watch it again.
True.
So I did some research on this because I was curious as well, like why Ginny wasn't in it. And there was like something happened behind the scenes where like they had, I'll tell you what it was in a sec, but they had a different story that followed her the whole movie. Like she was like the protagonist, and the actress said she didn't want to do it because she didn't want to be like typecast or something. And then later on she's like, oh man, I wish I had done it. So the plot that they would have done, which I actually think is really cool, it's very similar to the Halloween 2, the 1981 version of Halloween 2, the original, when like they were gonna have Ginny like Paul was gonna die, and then like she was gonna be sent to a hospital, and then like Jason was gonna follow her there and like kill everyone at the hospital, and then she was gonna suffer from like severe PTSD, and then she was gonna learn like self-defense and all this shit, and then they were gonna like fight at the end.
Whoa.
Like that just sounds awesome. I would have loved that. That's
crazy. Yeah, that would have been good. If they would have done it right, maybe. I don't know. Maybe it would have been bad.
It's funny how the movie spends so much time... I guess we're on to part 3 right now. But it's funny how part 3 spends so much time recapping Paul and Ginny when they're not even in the movie. Like... Yeah.
It's kind of weird. It's just like, hey, remember this? This guy's still out there, I guess. Maybe. You find out in a minute here. But here's the recap. Previously on Friday the 13th.
There was a Friday the 13th TV series, if you didn't know.
Really?
It has nothing to do with the movies. It's, like, totally separate, but...
So then Part 3 is made in 1984. And Part 2 is 1981, so it's 3 years later.
Wait, no, Part 2 was 82. Part 4 is 84.
Part 2 is 82.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Part 3 is 82. Part 4 is 84.
Part 3 is 82?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. It starts with this crazy couple. I don't know why.
Yeah. What was up with that?
I love the guy, though, because his name is Harold, and he has to deal with his horrible wife telling him what to do all the time. But he just loves little bunny rabbits and his little fish inside of his grocery store. He was really nice, and I don't know why he got murdered by Jason right in the beginning.
I don't know why he married his wife either. She was awful.
Yeah. Poor Harold.
Poor Harold.
Yeah, so it begins with just a random Harold getting murdered.
Rip Harold.
In, like, not even a camp. He's just in town.
Yeah.
Why?
Oh, are you actually asking me?
Yeah, why?
I don't know. I don't have all the answers. Well, that sounded way more smug than I intended. But how do you not sound smug when saying, I don't know all the answers, okay?
I don't know all the answers.
Gosh. Oh my god.
Yeah, so this was available in 3D.
Which we didn't get to see, because,
We didn't. I watched on Amazon Prime.
See, I did too, but I was going to say I watched it on VHS, which would have been a total lie, but...
Don't lie.
Okay.
So this is the part I actually chuckled at, is when... So there's a whole group of teens, early 20s kids inside of a van, and they all get out, and they look back at the van, and it's smoking, and they're like, the van's on fire! And they walk inside, and it's just two people, like, hotboxing the van. I was like, all right, that's good. I like that one.
Yeah.
And, yeah, so, actually, American Horror Story 1984 is very similar to Part 1 and Part 3 of Friday the 13th.
Okay.
Because it starts with, like, a murder at a camp. And although it's much more brutal than how Part 1 starts,
mm-hmm.
Then it also brings in the third one because there's a bunch of counselors who are going to camp. They're inside a van, and they come across, like, a straggler in the middle of the road, just like in Part 3, and there's, like, people warning them not to go there and everything, but they get there, and then, of course, they're all obsessed with sex and everything. And I didn't get very far in that season of American Horror Story. I don't know why, I just couldn't get into it. I think the same reason why I kind of got bored with these movies is just, like, it was pretty much just slashery and not much of a story behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Which I find American Horror Story can have some really good stories, so I was just kind of disappointed after watching the season before that to go into 1984. But yeah, so what would you do if someone was warning you not to go somewhere and you had your whole summer planned out and you were going to be a counselor at a camp, and then all of a sudden this crazy person was like, don't go, you're all doomed? What would you do? Well,
I wouldn't know the person. But after watching these movies, I would listen. But if I didn't know anything, like if I didn't know about, like if I was a character in these movies and I hadn't heard about, Jason or Mrs. Voorhees or Alice or anything, like I would have been like, yeah, let's still go. I mean, we planned our whole summer around it. We got like 10 of us in the car. Half of them are in the back hotboxing. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you'd feel pretty safe with like a bunch of your friends and everything.
But... If it was just me, then like if I was by myself, I'd be like, no, I'm not going. But if you have like, if we had like 10 friends with us, and we're all like, hey, let's go. But yeah, I definitely want to watch this one again because I liked it so much. But I want to watch it in 3D. I told you there's flinging yo-yos. I swear, I told you.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, so this time it's not counselors. It's just a group of people going to this girl. Her name is Chris. Her lake house that she has. So they're all just in for a good time on the weekend. Oh yeah, and like you said at the beginning, this happens the day after the murders after Part 2.
Which it doesn't really matter because it has nothing to do with Part 2. Like you don't see Ginny or anything.
Right.
So.
Yeah. We just know that Jason is out there, most likely.
Yep. Which they don't know. Dramatic irony.
Know. Although, Chris did have her own run-in with Jason a few years back, so that's her ghost she carries with her through this movie.
Yeah, I really liked that I know it might not fit with the continuity or whatever, but I really did like that that she had a backstory, like, that tied into things.
That's one of my questions is, why did Jason take forever to decide to, like, rampage everyone around? Like, I guess because the camp was closed and then it reopened and then that just, like, got him started? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, what was he doing?
Living in the woods.
Living in the woods?
Making
just, like, being
making
chill?
a shrine. Yeah.
He needs to just go back to being chill, man. Yeah, so since this was made, well, it was made just a year later, but I felt like the quality was a lot better. Except there were some hairs on the lens and through some scenes. I was like,
I noticed that too.
guys, that's really bad, guys. And then, so yeah, these group of kids, there's a dynamic between this one guy, this goofball named Shelly, and this girl that he's supposed to like be on a date with, kind of thing, like blind date. This girl named Vera.
Mm-hmm.
She's a little out of his league, but I think they get along great.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was that dynamic, which I kind of liked. It kind of got a little bit deeper than the other two.
Yeah.
Then they run into this biker gang. That was weird.
That was awesome.
I'm like, well, who are these people? What is the point of this? So yeah, down at the general store or something, Shelly and Vera run into these group of 3 bikers, 2 guys and a girl, and they start, like, having a war. Because I don't know how it started. How did it start? Do you remember?
Because they try to take Shelly's wallet, and then or maybe it's Vera's wallet. I think, yeah, Shelly's wallet.
Oh,
they try to
yeah.
take it, and then they're like, can we have it back, please? And then they're being assholes about it, like the biker woman. And then they're like, okay, we're gonna get out of here. And then Shelly, like, pulls back and accidentally knocks the bike down. And then he's like, no, I've had enough. I'm not gonna stand for this shit. And it's like, yeah, do it, man, go for it.
Do it.
And then they just get the hell out of there, which is what I would do. So.
Except one of the biker guys knocks
Follows
his
them.
windshield in with a chain.
Oh, I forgot about that.
He stands in front of him, in front of Shelly's Volkswagen Beetle, and throws a chain at the windshield and shatters it. So then Shelly turns around and, like, starts going for him again and hits the bikes again, and then they drive off. And so then the biker gang's mad again, and they go and they follow them, and then they find their van and start siphoning the gas from the van. But then they get distracted because the girl biker goes to the barn and starts swinging around on ropes, and she's looking at all the cool barn artifacts, like canteens and saddles. Like, oh my gosh, I've never seen this before. This is so cool. She's, like, so intrigued by all this, and she's slowly being stalked by Jason. And then she gets murdered. Does she get murdered first?
Yeah.
And then, like, the other guy goes in. Yeah.
Yeah, she's, like, swinging, and then they look up and she's gone. She's like, yay, I feel like a kid again.
It's so random. Then one of the other guys goes in and looks for her. Then he gets murdered.
Yep.
And then finally the last guy goes in. Does he get murdered? Because he shows up later.
No, he's not dead. You just think he's dead.
You think he's dead. Okay. Because I kind of missed that part. You think he's dead too. So it all kind of takes place in the barn.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is, like, carries on throughout the whole thing too with the other group. So that's only, like, halfway through.
Yep.
Then the main group of people starts getting murdered. But it takes a while, and we kind of build up a good relationship with this group more so than the first 2.
Yeah, I would agree.
The main girl, Chris, and this guy that she's kind of with, kind of not with, are pretty much gone, separated from the group the whole time. And she's telling the guy about her run-in with Jason, and we're kind of watching the other people get murdered. And the ending, I don't know. I mean, the middle part is just, murders. What else was there?
3D comes back every 30 years like Pennywise. It started in the 50s, came back in the 80s, and then came back, like, around 2009, 2010 when Avatar came out. So it's like every 30 years, 3D comes back. So I guess 3D is the cinema's version of Pennywise.
Interesting.
I don't know if you noticed, but on the TV, they said, like Ginny has, like, injuries, but she'll be okay. Then they didn't say if Paul died or not. So I guess that's still open to debate. And I love how on the TV, it's literally the last shot of part 2. I
know. It's like, okay, were there really cameras there watching her being taken away in a stretcher, just like we saw?
I love the little moment when Harold, I think, is that what you said his name was? When Harold's, like, when he's feeding his fish and then he just like takes a bite of his fish food. Like
Yes.
that was such a small little detail, but I loved that.
I love that too.
The guy this time that says you're doomed, it's not Ralph. So I wondered if he like knew him, if he was like his friend or his brother or his roommate or something. But like
His roommate.
I really loved how Chris had a previous connection with Jason, and I thought like how you don't know her backstory till like 2/3 of the way through was like really, really well done. And it was like really horrifying too.
Yes.
I still don't quite know like entirely what happened because you could take different implications, I think, with it, but it's still really horrifying.
Yeah, definitely scary.
When I forget her name, but when the one girl has the Fangoria magazine and is flipping through, they have a little article that says like Tom Savini does it again or something like that, and he's the makeup and gore guy. He does all the gore for these movies.
Oh, really? Wow.
So,
good.
Yeah.
Good catch. Good catch.
And then going to the end, I really liked the confrontation in this one. I don't know if I like it more than part 2's, but I like it quite a lot. Chris versus Jason, and like how she like uses like the things around her in the barn and like continuously gets him, and it's like he gets her, then she gets him, and it feels. I guess it does kind of feel evenly matched, but it has a sense of like ping pong back and forth kind of
Definitely
fight.
It was, I thought it was really well done.
Yeah, it kind of made it like she's not just getting lucky, like she's dealt with this guy before and she's not going to take this shit. It felt more like she could actually hold her own against Jason.
Right. Yeah, she wasn't just like running around flailing her arms like Alice.
Yeah. yeah. So we went from Alice to Ginny to Chris.
Right. Much evolution.
Yes. I can't wait for part... I actually know who the characters are in part 4, but I can't wait because I think they evolve even more. I'm excited for that.
Yes.
Also, it's the last one, if you knew. It's called The Final Chapter. So, we could have just watched that and watched the whole series in one go, but part 4
That's true.
is like, we need a whole other episode to talk about it, because it's, Crispin Glover and Corey Feldman. And anyway, sticking to part 3, I really like also how it mirrored the ending of both 1 and 2, but also the first one, like how she has the vision of Jason like coming out of the like house or whatever, and then he's like sneers at her and like he's gonna go get her, and then she looks again and he's not there, so it's like, oh, it's a dream. And then like Mrs. Voorhees comes out of the lake and brings her down, and then that's a dream. So it's like the first movie.
What?
She's the lady in the water.
She's the lady in the water.
Yes.
Mrs. Voorhees. Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, like how it was pretty much the same thing. Like she was trying to get away, but then she's like, wait, he's not there. I'm safe. Taken down. Yeah, that was, but then it ends. We don't get any sense of like, it was a dream, it wasn't a dream. Right? Like it just ends right there, right?
No, because then they cut to like the police like leading her out of the house, and then she gets in the car and drives away. And the two things I want to mention from that scene are, firstly, this originally, they didn't put it in the title, but they do that later on, but this one was going to be the last one, so they had Jason, stay dead. There's no like, oh, he's still alive, like the last shot's
right.
The axe in his head.
Right.
And then they're like, okay, we'll make one more, and then, that really happened.
We'll make one more.
Yeah, we'll make one more. We'll call it the final. And they've never retitled it. It's great. But anyway, and then one last thing is like, I don't know, because you said like maybe Ginny did go crazy, but I really wonder if Chris did, because she's like horrified and then like starts laughing, and then I'm like,
was crazy.
Is it because she saw like Jason die, or like she saw his like body still there and she was like relieved, or are they saying she's like totally psycho now? Like, is she crazy? Which is kind of sad because she was awesome. So
Yeah, it's sad to see her lose her marbles that way, but man, yeah, she was good. She was really good at that last scene, like acting very estranged. I like that. I like that ending. I hope she went crazy. Also at the end when Ali comes back, one of the biker guys.
Yeah.
He pops in for a second and like kind of takes down Jason for a minute, but then just gets brutally murdered again.
Yeah, he saved her life.
Where was he the whole time?
That's what I'm wondering.
Don't know.
There's
just like lying there.
There's another horror sequel in another series where that exact same thing happens, and both times I'm like, that's just bullshit. Like, don't make us think they're dead. Because, like, in the series we've seen, if someone's alone and you cut away because they don't show all the deaths, you're like, oh, they're dead. So then in this movie, you're thinking, oh, we just didn't see him die. We cut away. So then it, like, cheapens it. And then also, it, like, cheapens the tension. Like, it pulled me out of the tension. Because I was really into, like, Chris, like, I'm like, maybe Chris will, like, I know she's going to get Jason somehow, but I'm like, I'm really invested in, like, this, like, battle of, like, the wills, and then, which is actually a perfect description for part 7. But anyway, getting ahead of myself. This, like, battle of, like, wits between her and Jason, and, like, they're actually having a pretty decent fight. It's not just she's running and screaming, like you said. And then this dude just shows up, like, out of the blue for 20 seconds to save her ass, and then he's, like, dead. Yeah. It's kind of pointless.
It is. But, yeah, I like the ending a lot in this part 3. And then I like the ending, like the false ending and the actual ending.
Yeah.
It was very fun. That's kind of all I have for this.
Yeah, me too. How would you rank the first 3 so far?
I guess I like the third one the best. And probably, I don't know, the first one was, like, horrible to watch, but it was funny because it was pretty bad. So I think that makes up for, like, number 2, who's just kind of, like, there, And plus the twist at the end of the first part was pretty good. So I'm going to say 3-1-2.
I will say also 3-1-2.
So thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
This week on Film Therapy, our ASMR podcast. A lovely Friday the 13th to you, and a Saturday the 14th to you.
And a Sunday the 15th.
Even though today is July 1st.
Get ready for that final chapter next time.
So we're going to have to watch 4, 5, 6 as part 2 for this podcast. And 7, 8, 9, and then 10, 11, 12.
I'm down for that. So is that what we're recommending for next week? Are we doing this again, 4 through 6?
Might as well just get them all done.
Yeah, I mean, as long as they're on Amazon, we don't want to, like, wait 2 months and then they're gone,
That's true. Good point. We can watch them all now. All right, so go home, watch Friday the 13th, part 4, part 5, and part 6, and we will be back next week to discuss them.
Yes. I love that you say go home. Like, what if someone's already listening to this at home?
Go home. Go to your room.
We command you.
Watch the movies.
Do what your mother says, Jason.
Yes.
Kill her, Mommy. Kill her. Yes, Jason.